in doing the research for your book, what has been sort of a more scary part of what you've learned about our privacy or lack of privacy?
I think that it's less scary and it's more just frustrating. It's so I break it up as just like for people who haven't read the book. I don't really deal with privacy as it involves like the federal government.
Sure.
Because I think we lost that battle 100 years ago when they passed the Espionage Act and the World War One laws. Along with that,
and then the Patriot Act afterwards, after 9/11. So even worse.
And then I've gotten into debates. Like I know people on both sides. Like I've met people from the NSA or people that have worked in cyber law for like the Pentagon or different military institutions. And I've heard their arguments, and then I also know the arguments on the other side for privacy advocates when the government is involved. And so I don't deal with that necessarily. So I just want to put that aside. Right?
Sure.
I just want to. So when we're talking about privacy here, I'm talking purely about like Facebook, Google,
right.
Apple, and then all the hundreds of data brokers out there that you've never heard of. They're collecting your stuff. And so my attitude is, the frustrating thing is we can fix this.
Yeah.
We just have to do it. Like we just have to have. And so the nice thing that's happened since the book has come out is that in the state of California, I believe in 2020, they are going to have a privacy law come on the books that's very similar to GDPR over in the European Union, which would. So let me back up. What GDPR is, for people that don't know, is it changes the way we handle privacy. Like right now, everything. You really have no say in what happens. Like you click on the terms of service, but it's not really consensual. Like you're kind of bullied into signing that terms of service because if you don't, then you can't use the platform.
Right.
And then once you've signed that terms of service, the American tech companies could do whatever they want to you.
Sure.
So over in Europe, they were kind of like, we would like you to not do that anymore.
Yeah.
So they've now put the emphasis on the company as opposed to the user, where the user can now opt out at any time and be like, I want my data back, or I would like you to delete my data.
Sure.
So it really puts the power back in the consumer's hands. And so California is putting a law on the books that will also allow for that to happen for California residents, which is awesome, because what that means in not too short of order, New York will probably do the same thing.
Sure.
And then at that point, we should see at least among the blue states, we should at least see them start to pass similar laws, which makes a lot of what I talk about in the book irrelevant. Because they're now solving the problem. But the frustrating thing was, as I was researching the book since 2015, it was like, it's not a big deal for these companies to pay you for your data. Like it's not hard for them to do because there's these transactions happening on a micro level every minute that you're on Facebook. Or like when you go to your favorite website, it's not just your favorite website that loads; it's hundreds of trackers that also load.
Right.
And there's ways you can protect yourself using things like Privacy Badger or a VPN, or if you really want to get crazy, using something like Tor or Brave, the browser. Most people won't do that, by the way, but like there's no reason why in the process of that transaction they can't send you a few cents because it's your data that's being monetized in the first place.
Sure.
And so it's a long way of saying like. I was just frustrated by like the absolute greed, and kind of short-sightedness. And that's something I saw when I was researching social media's bullshit. Is Silicon Valley companies are incredibly greedy. They're incredibly short-sighted. That doesn't mean that people working for them are bad. I want to be kind of clear that I'm not slamming everyone. But when push comes to shove, they will do everything they can to make money.
Right.
And they will do that at the expense of the user, which I think is short-sighted because it erodes your relationship to the user. And like, just as you know, as a musician, the relationship to your audience is all you have.
Yeah.
And if you destroy that, you will not get it back. Like I look at someone like Louis C.K.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Louis C.K. will ever be able to make a comeback. I think for a significant portion of his audience, they will not come back.
Yeah.
that's nothing again, regardless of what you think of Louis,
Mhm.
that's just the nature of, if you burn your audience, they won't come back. And what's going to happen with these tech companies is there will be this, not like a day of reckoning, but slowly over time, there will be like a series of reckonings.
Yeah.
And it's already starting to happen with like Facebook stock price,
Yeah.
where they have eroded user confidence and they don't know if they can keep them.
Right.
And so it becomes this question of, all right, well, how viable is Facebook if its most valuable audience, which is the United States and United Kingdom,
Mhm.
is now actively losing users, and then advertisers are going to start to abandon the platform. Well, what does that mean for the future of that company?
Right. And that's something that I've talked with friends about. I mean, being a musician, we do have to promote ourselves and share our shows and stuff like that. And so if if everyone just decides, we're done with Facebook, which kind of might also mean we're done with Instagram. And so, what alternatives do we have as musicians, as self-promoting people, to be able to like have a platform for people to see our things and have them not be buried and be able to invite them and all of these sort of features that make it really convenient for us as musicians, and public people that are trying to share our stuff. Uh, what is the alternative to Facebook?
So it's very old school. Like it's email.
Yeah.
It's always been email. Email has never gone away. Like that's the thing that I think, if I'm revising social media's bullshit right now. And one of the things I talk about is, I think I look back at the amount of time we all lost building audiences on Facebook, and Facebook turning around and making it impossible to reach that audience, and building an audience on Twitter, and Twitter turning around and making it impossible to reach that audience.
Right.
Think of the amount of time that you could have spent building up your email list.
And
that angers me. Like, very few things anger me, but that actively upsets me. Because all of us, we would have been in a better position had we been building our email list, because email is not perfect. I mean, if you want to really get into the weeds, there's all sorts of technical stuff like deliverability and what you have to do to optimize that. And then Gmail doesn't make it easy, because Gmail likes to put things in different labels without your permission, which is super annoying. But putting that aside, email has always been the best one-to-one form that you have. And if you don't like email, then you could just text your customers. Like, I have my actual phone number on my website.
Yeah, I saw that.
You can text me. I won't answer if you call. Like it says on the site, I won't. So I won't. And funny things happen. Like, people will send me pictures of Richard Nixon, or I'll get pictures of Dick Cheney. Because I said on the podcast, please don't send me any dick pics.
Oh, there you go.
So now, everyone made the same joke at once, which is funny. And I'm not want to be clear, I'm not complaining about it.
Right.
But everyone had the same response of, "Oh, I'm really funny and clever, so I'm gonna send BJ a picture of Richard Nixon or Dick Cheney." And so that's honestly what you do. Like, if you are a musician, I remember, so there was this Peruvian jazz band that I loved, because I loved the saxophonist. I had such a crush on her. And so I was always giving them free advice, and anything I do to work with them and talk to them. But that was one of the things we figured out, especially in jazz. Jazz, I love jazz, but I know it's a very limited audience.
Right.
It's nowhere near as big as rock music or country music.
You also live in New York.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You have to live in the metro area. Well, that's not true. Iowa, I've been told, has a jazz scene, and then there's another college town that you would never think of it, because it's in the middle of nowhere, but it also has a big jazz scene. So there's a lot of college towns where they do have big jazz scenes. So anyway, one of the things we figured out was, all right, because you're a jazz band, you have a very wealthy audience. So why don't you do something awesome? And they're like, we do. We take them on trips to Peru.
Oh.
And that's the thing that I don't know if they do it anymore, because Laura has since she's gotten married and has a kid. So I don't know if they're still doing it, but for a long time, that was their thing. That was their hook, was, we know that we don't have many jazz listeners, but we know that those listeners have money. And a lot of those listeners happen to be baby boomers who are looking for stuff to do. So we're going to take them to Peru, which is fucking amazing. And that's kind of the way that you have to think. Like, that's the second step. So like the first step is, collect all the audiences, but then the second step is, what is this cool thing I can do that no one else can, that's related, it's tied into my music, that we could do with our fans. And so, and that's something that I'm now seeing pro wrestlers are doing. Like Chris Jericho is now doing a cruise, which is not something I would ever imagine. Like, I would never put cruise and pro wrestling in the same sentence. But that is something that he's doing, and it's brilliant because he's monetizing his fans in such a way that's fun. Like when you say monetizing, I know everyone kind of gets a little queasy.
Right, yeah.
But he's doing it in such a way that everyone's having a good time. And so that's sort of the way that the way we all need to think. I mean, it's the way I need to think too. I put out my comics for $1. I put out my books almost for free. The way I make money is through the speaking. So for me, it's constantly about just awareness and making sure people know I exist and that I'm out constantly putting out new stuff. Because that's, the speaking is how I pay for everything. And so that's the way that musicians need to think as well, because what's happened is that Spotify and streaming has kind of destroyed the economic model.
Very much so.
For musicians. I mean, I can go on the whole thing about Spotify. I won't, but because they've taken that money away from you, they've put you in this box of, okay, I can make money through merchandise sales. I can make money through touring only to certain, like everyone I mentioned in the Gabrielle Alegria, crap, I can't remember the name of the bands. I'm going to Google it real quick while I'm talking about it, because their stuff is still out there and you should listen to it. And like I said, I love Laura. It's Gabrielle Alegria and the Afro-Peruvian Sextet.
Okay.
And Laura, crap, I can never pronounce her last name. But if we can put links in the show notes, right?
Sure.
So like Laura Legula, I can never say her last name. She's going to listen to this and like kill me. But like, like Laura also has her stuff online, and her stuff is on Spotify, and it's beautiful, and people should listen to it. But again, like she gave me this great example of, well, if I have a kid, how do I tour?
Right.
Because touring is how I make money as a musician. So what do I do? And so, touring is not, it's a long way of saying that touring is not as easy an answer as people like it to be. Because like if you listen to most marketing gurus like to pretend that they know something about being a musician, like working with bands, and they don't. But they'll always be like, oh, you can make money back in touring. And it's like, no, dude, what if I break my leg? What if I have a baby? Like what if or like if you're like me and you have something wrong with your central nervous system, like you have days where you wake up and you're dizzy. You are not performing.
Right, yeah.
You are not performing that day. Like, it's just not happening. So what do you do? And so, you've got to get like just really clever with how you make money.
Right. And I mean, it's also just, I mean, I'm also just kind of like bitching, but like the fact that, only some people can tour, and those are the people that have gotten to a level that they are able to tour. And so, I mean, I don't have that much of a musical audience. I don't have music on Spotify yet. And so, like, I don't even have a means of doing that yet. And so the other part is that, like, now that people at the bottom can't find their way up, and even once you're up there, the way that people listen to the music, which is sort of the main thing that you're doing in the first place, now, 1 million plays on Spotify still doesn't give you anything.
Right. That's right. It's funny because there's this very annoying catch-22, and I go through it too. Like if I'm not out speaking, then I'm not in the hunt for more speaking engagements. So like, or I'll give you another, like I'm trying to get into speaking at comic book conventions.
Right.
But in order to do that, I have to first get booked, right?
Yeah,
so you're like in this catch-22. And so what you wind up doing is out of pocket, you got to fly down to like Fort Lauderdale. and speak at Florida SuperCon if your panel gets accepted. And then you got to pay out of pocket for someone to film that panel so you can send it to other comic book conventions.
Right.
So then what happens is this catch-22. Well, you need a tour to make money, but you need to spend money to start touring.
Exactly.
And it can be very difficult, especially when you're younger or when you're in college and you don't have a lot of money to begin with. So there's no reason not to bitch about it, honestly. Because we've created this situation, and it's not just true for musicians. It's true for artists and presenters and just a lot of us who are creatives. Where someone the other day was like, "I'd really like to get into comics." I said, "Okay, you have to do an 8-page sample." He's like, "Yeah, but that costs a lot of money." And my response was, "Do you have any idea how much I spent on like samples or bad comics that never saw the light of day?"
Sure.
So I'm sympathetic to a lot of respects.
Yeah.
But I've also spent thousands of dollars just to make a comic, just to be able to promote it.
Yeah.
But I also, I'm empathetic towards, no one, who has $800 that they're just sitting on, right? That you could just blow on an 8-page comic, which, by the way, you don't get paid for. The artist gets paid for, and even then, $100 is kind of on the low side in terms of page rate. So even the artist is not quite getting what they're supposed to be getting. So it sucks. So I'm a big believer in universal basic income. And a big believer in universal healthcare coverage.
Yeah.
Through the expansion of Medicare, exactly because of what we're talking about. Because we've created a situation where if you are creative and you're an artist, you're not getting the opportunity to create. Instead, what you're saddled with is most people that go to college now are working a job, or they're working 2 jobs, and so you're not quite getting the college experience, because as soon as class is over, you're going to go and work a 6-hour shift somewhere.
Yeah.
And then you're tired. So it's weird. And then you might have family obligations, or you might have some other obligations. So where exactly in there do you have time to optimally put in your best creative hours into your work? You don't.
Yeah.
Like, we've built a system that's impossible to make a living for a lot of us, and it's impossible to be a creative. And so for that reason, I'm kind of like, okay, let's do universal basic income. We've done studies. We found it does not change people's work ethic. So that's bullshit. Like a lot of it's not quite a Republican defense, because I've heard Democrats also, there's pro-business Democrats who will tell you, well, we do universal basic income, no one's going to want to work.
Right.
It's not true, because innately as humans, we are hardwired for activity and action. So what they found, there's a great book out called Bullshit Jobs. I think everyone should read it, because what he says is, what's going to happen is the dumb jobs where you're sitting around and playing at your computer for most of the workday, and you've got maybe an hour or 2 of actual work. Those are the jobs that are going to go away. Those are jobs that people aren't going to do, either because of automation or just because they've got shit to do.
Right.
Those are jobs that we're talking about killing. We're not talking about killing jobs like being a nurse.
Yeah.
What you find is that people who, I don't like the term blue collar job, because I think that's dismissive. But what you find is that people who are plumbers, people who work a trade, people who are in the caregiving industry, those people enjoy what they do. It fills them with a deep satisfaction because they're actually helping people.
Yeah.
Those jobs aren't going anywhere. It's just the bullshit jobs that we're talking about.
Yeah.
When we say, oh, no one's going to want to work, that's what we're talking about. But those jobs are going to be erased anyway through automation within the next 5 to 10 years.
Right.
So you kind of have to have this universal basic income. And anyway, that's a whole.
No, right. Well, no, I'm fully willing to go down this rabbit hole. Do you know about Andrew Yang?
Yes.
So, I mean, for a potential presidential candidate to make his entire platform universal basic income, I mean,
I think it's genius. I think it's one of those things where you're running not quite the win, but you're running for people to know what the hell this thing is.
Right.
Because if we're not careful, and when I say we, I mean liberals, which I count myself among. The Republicans are very good, and this isn't a knock on them. They are very good at framing the conversation. and liberals and Democrats are not. So, like, they have successfully framed, if you get disability, if you collect welfare, then there must, you're lazy.
Right.
That's been a narrative that they've been pushing since the 80s, and they've pushed it successfully to the point where you get people who it's hilarious, but it's not hilarious, where they're like, oh yeah, I hate welfare and I don't want the government in my business, but at the same time, they're collecting disability checks.
Right.
Like, or you get people who hate Obamacare, but then they realize that they would lose their health care coverage from the Affordable Care Act, and they didn't realize that there was a difference.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that they're dumb. It just means that people are very easily led. And the Republicans have been very good at being able to shape the debate. So if we're not careful, what's going to happen is the universal basic income debate is going to be shaped by them. And they're going to say, if we give everyone money, then I guess we have to get rid of Medicaid or other social services and just have universal basic income. Or if we give everyone the money, no one's going to work. And then how are we going to create the tax revenue to do this? And then the response should be, well, asshole, we just created $1 trillion in tax cuts. And had we kept those, the income that we gained through that would have paid for universal health care coverage, which is true. That's something that PolitiFact recently fact checked with Bernie Sanders, where they said, the Sanders plan is the most generous plan that's been proposed for universal health care coverage. But had they not done the tax cuts, they would have easily had the money to pay for it. So where's the money come from? How do we pay for this thing? Or people are going to be lazy. Like the Republicans are very good at driving those narratives. And the reason why I'm so happy this guy is running for president is it's one of the ways to fight that.
Yeah. And then actually kind of similar to like the what will people do? Have you ever heard of the Venus Project?
No, I have not.
So it's obscure in the sense that like it only showed up in like the Zeitgeist documentaries.
Okay.
If you've ever heard of those, but
I think I've heard of it. I'm not too familiar with the concept of it.
So the Venus Project was the idea of Jacques Fresco, a futurist, I guess is the term for it, but he died recently. He was 101. And he actually grew up during the Great Depression. And so what he saw was there's food, there's resources, but because of the arbitrariness of a stock market and whatever, people didn't have food, people didn't have homes, so he was confused by that, and so kind of looked at the system in a way that if he were to start it over, what should be done and what would be the most efficient way of running society.
I like that.
And
I'm a big believer. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, because I have a full train of thought.
So I'm a big believer. So here's the thing. Capitalism works, but because I've noticed it's become popular, again, among my fellow liberals, to dismiss capitalism. It works. It is a very powerful economic force. The problem is it only works when there is a social safety net. Because within the system, it inherently creates winners and losers. So because we know, we have hundreds of years at this point of data, right? Or at least 200 years of data that we could point to, where as long as there is a robust and healthy social safety net, like a universal basic income or healthcare for all, or any other, like something like a disability, as long as those things are in place, capitalism is fine. The problem isn't capitalism. The problem is since the 1890s, the Republican Party changed from the party of Lincoln to the party of corporations. And that's when they started taking corporate money and saying things like corporations are people. And therefore, so that's where all that change was in the 1890s. And so When that happened, we just allowed a very small group of greedy people to kind of dictate how we operate. And so that's sort of the problem. It's not that people are bad or capitalism is bad. It's just the way the system is set up now. Your politicians listen to who pays their bills, and the people who pay the bills are the extreme, not just the wealthy, but the extremely wealthy. And so because the extremely wealthy control the means of production, reality is shaped by how they see things. And that's sort of what the issue is. So, I like things like the Venus Project. Like, there's a number of things out there that I like that, which are kind of like, all right, well, if we start from scratch, day one, what does this look like? I think the system is fine. I honestly do. I just think that we've allowed it to get corrupted. And if we could just fix it, then, we can go back to the New Deal. Under the New Deal, we had the biggest explosion in terms of like housing. We built roads. Under Eisenhower, we built the interstate system. Like, we used to build things, and we used to tell people, move to Long Island. Like the Levittown was the first suburb, and they used to tell people, American, you weren't American unless you owned a small home with a garage, and that was something that applied to everybody. And so we can get back there. We just have to have the will to kind of fix the system a bit and have that safety net in place.
Right. What do you think about because I do sort of have the issue of that whenever I tend to describe the Venus Project sort of being beyond government, beyond blah, 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 it sounds very communist. And so
does Star Trek.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so what do you think about the sort of resurgence in sort of communist apologism or apologetics? Is that the word?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with socialism. I think we found that communism itself doesn't work, but there's nothing wrong with socialism. Like, socialism this is kind of the crazy thing about American history. You were more likely to find American farmers who were socialists than you were capitalists. And what happens is, because we're very good at, so people on an individual level have very good bullshit detectors. But when you put people in a group, our bullshit detectors get overridden. And it makes us susceptible. So you can have really smart people that just get susceptible to like crazy bullshit. Or things that are not true. And one of the things that happened was we were able to successfully brainwash people into thinking that socialism was bad. Even though out on the American prairie, if you went out after Marx wrote his books, you would find a lot of believers who said, you know what, this is the way to go. And so I don't have a problem with socialism making a comeback. I think that it's fine, because if you look at Star Trek, that's basically what it is. Like, Star Trek, they have no money. The key, though, to Star Trek that we don't have is the replicator. There's this great book called Trekonomics, where he's I think he went to Harvard, but like, he's one of those well-educated PhDs in economics. And he was like, what is the economics of Star Trek and Next Generation? Because they're in the 24th century, they don't have money. How does their society work? And what he said was, once you factor in the replicator, everyone's needs are met.
Right.
And then it kind of that's the end of capitalism right there.
Right. Well, and it's funny because that's one of the main points of the Venus Project, is that if we use technology to be able to reach post scarcity, then there's no need for money anymore because things are now available.
Right. And so that's his whole argument as well. I think that I could swear he name checks the Venus Project. I gotta go back and read it. It would surprise me if he didn't. But the thing he talks about is, we move more towards a model based on reputation, which is, you do things because, being a starship captain is a point of pride.
Right.
That's something that's respectable, and we work towards it. And being a doctor is respectable and something that we work towards. Being a teacher is respectable and something that you work towards. And so I think that we will get there eventually.
If we don't die.
I think, like the 3D printer is the beginning of that. Obviously we're not 3D printing food just yet, but we're a hop, skip, and a jump away from that.
Yeah.
And then once we're able to 3D print food and water, I think then it gets interesting.
Yeah, and then I mean, because eventually, soon enough, we'll be able to just kind of, I don't know, add protons to things, and here we have the elements that we need.
Right.
So I mean, I guess eventually, yeah, but and that sort of is kind of the goal of something like the Venus Project, is to make everything available so that we don't have to worry about bullshit jobs or money
Right.
or government. And so that kind of takes me to a broader tangent of artificial intelligence, because
Oh yeah.
one of the things that I see happening is that once we have a sort of better resource manager than humans, or corporations for that matter, we can actually use the higher intelligence to be able to run the planet better.
So I got bad news for you. Most people in the data science field will tell you that the hype around artificial intelligence is not quite, it's not quite there yet, and it may never be. And the reason why is because ultimately the computer only knows what it knows. They have a phrase in the data science industry, which is garbage in, garbage out. And so an algorithm can be incredibly good at an algorithm can be very good at automating jobs. Because if I can break your job into a series of small steps, and then I can break those small steps into specific tasks, I can automate that easily. Because at that point, it's just telling the computer, okay, if you do A, B will happen, and then if this computer does B, C will happen. It's very easy to do that. What's not so easy is to go, okay, I've got all of this data. Okay, wait, let me back up. There's this great sci-fi story that's called The Cold Equations by Tom Godwin. And to really briefly describe it, what he says is there's this ship, and the ship is guided by an algorithm, and a computer kind of dictates how all the ships fly. So the algorithm only knows what it knows, right? So if it says only one person is on the ship, then it has just enough fuel for one person. So what happens is a stowaway gets on board one of the ships, and the rule in that world is that stowaways have to be killed. You have to jettison them immediately because you don't have enough. You don't have enough fuel because the algorithm says you're not going to make it because it didn't factor in it didn't have an X factor basically. So this little girl gets on, and it's really sad. Like it's a depressing short story.
Sure.
And she tells you their whole story, that she said, she wants to say goodbye to her brother who's on the planet, and then at the end, the guy blows her out of the airlock. It was really controversial at the time. Tom Godwin wanted the girl to live. The editor of the magazine that published the story kept changing the ending over and over. And he's like, no, she has to die. And so the concern with the algorithms isn't quite, that they'll be bad, but there's that trolley problem. For people that watch The Good Place, like that, there's this problem of if X happens and you have algorithms in charge of everything, well, what do you do? And then what do we value more? Do we value human life, or do we value the mission or whatever this thing is doing? So we have that right now with the self-driving cars. There's a considerable question of, if you own a self-driving car and a pedestrian is crossing the street, and in order to protect you from an accident, the car has to kill the pedestrian.
Right.
Is that okay?
And that's
what are the moral implications of that?
Yeah, and it does become a very very quickly, we have to factor in morality with artificial intelligences,
right.
Or algorithms, which is sort of a baby AI.
And so what the data scientists will tell you is that if you're anyone listening to this is looking for a job, what the emerging field is going to be is people that work hand in hand with the AI. Like it's not good to think that this stuff is binary, like it's AI or nothing.
Right.
What's more likely to happen is it's AI plus humans.
Mm-hmm.
So like the AI will be like, hey, I think you should do this, and the human will kind of go, okay, yeah, sure. But the AI, they might disagree, or they might, they might be able to feed another data set into the AI that the computer didn't know about up until that point.
Right.
And the AI. So I think that's what you're looking at. And that's what the field of the future really is. Is going to be, interpreting what the AI says and then communicating with it and training it. And because it'll never quite get to as sophisticated as it will get, it won't quite get to the level of human decision making just because of the speed that we make decisions. We just don't have the processor power.
No, we don't.
And I think people don't realize that. I think that we're starting to run out of space on motherboards for chips. We can only shrink them so much, and we can only put so much into those smaller chips. And like the thing we always hear about Watson, we always hear about how awesome Watson is, but we don't hear about how Watson overheats. And like when it was on Jeopardy, they were desperately trying everything they could to cool it down. But like, it was pushed to its absolute limit. And the only reason why it won Jeopardy is because Jeopardy is a closed game. There are only so many answers in Jeopardy. So it's very easy to feed all of those answers into a computer. Like an algorithm can win Go or chess because there's only so many maneuvers. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of maneuvers,
right?
But there's a finite data set that you feed into it. Humans, for better or worse, are able to interpret all sorts of chaotic random variables just by the nature of our existence.
And intuition.
And we do that without overheating our brain. And so, I think AI is great. I think there's a lot of great things that are going to come from it. I think we're going to find a cure for cancer and a lot of diseases through AI. But I'm not quite on the bandwagon of it's going to replace everybody.
Right. Well, I don't know if it'll replace everybody, but it. Maybe I'm just very optimistic about technology, and that really is.
And I think it's good. I think it's good to be. I think that there's a lot of great things that are. We live in an interesting time because if you look at virtual reality, if we can solve the latency issue and the space issue, you'll see that really take off. And what I mean by that is like the reason why people get nauseous is not because they're using VR. It's because the speed of the computer that's drawing the environment, and it's not fast enough to catch up with the way the human eye interprets data. And because there's this lag, even though you don't notice the lag, your brain knows that there's a lag. Your eye knows that there's a lag, and that's why you get nauseous. But if we can solve that, and we're getting closer and closer to that through, again, it's a processor issue. It's the same issue with AI. If we can resolve that, then virtual reality is going to do a lot of great things for people in the healthcare field. Hang on. For people in the healthcare field. Thank you. For people in the education field. Because what we found is that the brain interprets virtual reality as if it's real. And so you have a lot of great use cases there that we just can't quite solve yet, but we're going to get there. And that's exciting. And the thing with VR is that VR will probably never work in your home because people are increasingly moving into apartments. 80% of the United States population by 2020 will be living within an apartment and not a house. So you only have so much space. And in order to really immerse yourself into VR, you have to have room to move around and not like trip over the cat,
right?
Or smack into something. And so what you're going to see are these caves, they call them. And the cave is just a room that's geared towards VR. It's got the cameras everywhere, so it can capture your body movement, and we can put on the vest so we can capture like the tactile movement and your heartbeat. So that's probably where that's going. So it's a very exciting time because that stuff has been around forever. They talked about VR in the 50s, but in order for you to do VR in the 50s, they had like this giant headset, and it was really uncomfortable, and you couldn't move, and it made everyone nauseous. Today, you can go out and buy a Google Daydream and stick your Android phone into the Google Daydream and experience VR. It's not a great version of VR, but it's a pretty cool it's a pretty cool interpretation of it.
Sure. And sort of going further with the like technology thing, where do you think the internet is going? Especially, I mean, if we can be optimistic about, oh, well, now we're going to wake up to, start focusing on our privacy, and where can the internet go from here? Because now it seems like the internet has sort of been reduced to like in some large part like Twitter, Facebook and stuff, but there's so much greater than just the social medias, but the internet itself.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think Facebook is the internet, which isn't new because back in the 90s, people thought AOL was the internet.
Right.
In fact, Tim Berners-Lee, who created the World Wide Web, was pissed at the people who, quote unquote, they didn't create it, who created Netscape. Netscape was actually a ripoff of a government-developed platform called Mosaic. They were just smart enough to turn a profit on it. Is what it comes down to. So, like even back then, Netscape was trying to market itself as if it was the internet. So throughout the internet's history, we've had like this corporatization where everything eventually becomes like a handful of companies that sort of own it. Where I think really there's two things to that. First is that in the United States, we don't realize that we have pretty bad internet. Like if you go overseas, especially in like South Korea or Japan and China, they've got ridiculously fast internet. Like they have what it used to be called Internet 2. I don't know if it's still around, but Internet 2 was like this fiber optic line that would connect universities in the United States. And so if you were at the University of Ottawa and you had the Ottawa Orchestra and you were at SUNY Potsdam, there used to be a fiber optic cable that connected the two. And so you could take the Crane School of Music and have students play along in real time with the people in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Like that's how fast the internet is, or it could be. We don't yet have that. So I think that there's still this thing that's yet to happen where we actually get high speed, like real high speed internet in the United States. People forget there's still 20 million people with dial up.
Yeah.
And there's people that have DSL or worse, or they've got cable internet, but it's not great for a bunch of reasons. So I think that once that happens, we'll see where this goes.
Right.
Because I still think there's a lot of things to be developed. I mean, we really can't have, for example, the self-driving cars until we have 5G wireless internet everywhere. and that might not be realistic in a place like New Mexico, or a place like Oklahoma, or a place like California to a lesser extent, or a place like Nevada, where you've got like these huge patches of not unoccupied, but just land,
wasteland.
It's so you've got that, but then you've got this thing that's coming with AR, where the internet's going to be in your glasses, or your phone. It can be used like Snapchat lets you basically use AR. Like your phone is now, the screen is now your keyboard.
Yeah.
Basically, like your camera app is now the main way that you would interact with the internet. Like you don't need a web browser anymore. You just need the camera open. So there's a lot of questions around that. And then, so that's really where the privacy issue is going to be.
Right.
Because we're going to get there first. Apple will eventually have AR glasses. Microsoft has the HoloLens, but the HoloLens is really fucking ugly. Like it's just disturbingly uncomfortable and not good to wear.
It doesn't look like it's coming anytime soon because it was revealed like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's out. I mean, you can own it. Like I've played with it. But it's super expensive. Like if you want it, it's like $3,000.
Right.
And I was an editor at a tech publication that they sent us a HoloLens that I got to play with it a little bit. But the question of privacy is going to be, if I'm wearing smart glasses, like Apple is coming out with the smart glasses either this coming year or next. So when they come out, if I'm wearing smart glasses and I can pull up your entire Wikipedia page, like if I look at someone and I start pulling up stuff about them, am I invading their privacy? Like if I could run, Facebook has the world's largest database of faces. The world's largest database of facial recognition because they've captured everyone's faces. So if I'm using Facebook and I take out my phone and I'm at like a bar or something, and I hold it up and I'm scanning the room with my phone on Facebook, and Facebook is saying, hey, that person over there is single. She recently, like, it starts giving you their whole like Facebook history.
Right. Yeah.
Is that creepy, or is that cool, or is that, and so that's sort of the privacy issue that we're starting to come towards.
Oh, and that's why I really appreciate stuff like Black Mirror that, while very dark, it allows us to sort of take a glimpse at the possibility of like, hey, if we don't do anything about this, this is what we'll get. And it's really freaking scary or really freaking creepy. So maybe we should, reconsider that net neutrality thing. Maybe we should reconsider the privacy thing.
it's the Jurassic Park rule. All because you can do it doesn't mean that you should. And I think that a lot of us have forgotten that lesson. And I feel like that's one of those things where, okay, AR glasses, sure, it's cool, but all because I can do that, should I be doing that? I don't know. All because I can clone something, does that mean I should? I don't. I think we just need to have that conversation.
What is next for, I guess, what is next for email then, if that is the post Facebook thing? How is email going to become the social media?
This is the hilarious thing. SMS and email are never going anywhere. Like there are a few things I can state in life with absolute certainty. I will die before email outlives its usefulness. And the reason why is simple, is because, let me back up. So you have to remember the internet was developed by academics and universities and the government. So everyone had to agree on certain protocols in order for the internet to work, in order for the internet, for our computers to communicate with each other. Like, we all had to agree on certain things.
Sure.
And we agreed on those things all over the entire planet. So email is one of those examples of something that you can't recreate it. Because in order to recreate email, you would then need absolutely everyone who's able to get and send and collect email. You would need that entire infrastructure, which we don't think about, which everyone agreed to around the globe to change. And it's just not happening. There is no way it's happening, because governments, people will act out of self-interest, or corporations will act out of self-interest and stop those changes. Or then you've got the emerging third world, which is where all the growth in the internet is really coming from, because in the Western world, the internet has hit a saturation point for the most part. Now we have a question of how fast is your internet in the Western world, whereas in the developing world, you've got people that are just now coming online, and they're coming online with email and SMS. And the reason why is because they can email anyone in the world, they can SMS anyone in the world.
Yeah.
So those protocols, which if you want to change, you should be changing them right now, are now getting ingrained with the next generation of internet users.
Yeah.
And that's why I can safely say it's never going to do. Like, it just isn't going to happen. Even in, like, we might get more video based. That was, I don't know if you remember. How old are you now?
I'm 22.
Okay, so about 10 years ago, Google was like, we're going to kill email. And they were like, yeah, it's this new thing. It's called Google Wave. And we're going to replace email. And Google Wave turned out to just be this really creepy thing. And it just failed. And the reason why it failed is because everyone had to get on board all over the planet and say, okay, I agree that we're going to change. So because of the way the internet was constructed, and because we've allowed these greedy corporations to then take stuff the government developed and monetize it, much to our detriment, we're kind of stuck to a certain extent with the way the tubes work. And so you're always going to have email.
Right. Are you familiar with the idea that, I don't know where it originally came from, but Chris Ryan, he wrote Sex at Dawn, but he's writing a book called Civilized to Death. And he's working off of the idea that corporations are sort of a higher organism. I've
seen this.
Yeah, in that. sort of how like herds are moving as a single entity, but an entire herd can sort of stampede off of a cliff, even though none of the wildebeests in the herd wanted to go off the cliff. And so in the same way, Chris Ryan always uses the example that if a oil company executive in a board meeting goes, we have to stop what we're doing, we have to save the planet, we need to make sure that we go entirely green right now, he'll be fired immediately.
Right. I mean, that's sort of the problem. And the problem is, a lot of the means of production and wealth is encapsulated among a very small group. And that's a very small group that relies on Wall Street to tell them what to do, even though Wall Street isn't an active reflection of reality. Yeah, it's a reflection of their reality. Like if you look at the stock market, there is absolutely no logical reason for it to continue climbing the way it is. Like everyone who studies economics right now will tell you it's a wild. If you Google the phrase "Wile E. Coyote economy," like it's going up, but we have absolutely no idea why. The reason why is because among the super wealthy, Trump is great. The tax cuts are great. They're making a killing, so of course it's going to go up. But it has no reflection of the larger reality. The problem is, we're all getting dragged along for the ride. I don't really know how you fix it, because in order for humans to interact with each other successfully, we kind of need these larger organizations. Whether it's a tribe going way back when, or it's a state, or it's a government, we've always needed like a larger infrastructure in order to get anything done. Like the internet is a good example of, if we didn't have this agreement, among all the academics and the government, this thing would have never happened. Like the internet would not exist. It would not come about. But because we had the governments cooperating with each other, because we had all these academic institutions cooperating with each other, we were able to build consensus. That's why, like, I kind of laugh hysterically when the conservatives have this conspiracy theory that the United Nations is going to take over the earth. And it's going to be one large government ruling everything. Because the first thing that you learn about people and organizations is that we're all disorganized. Yeah. And so we need a certain layer of bureaucracy between, we're never going to have one supreme layer. Like there's always going to be like these little, there may be fewer layers as we evolve over time as humans, but there's always going to be multiple layers. And we see that in Star Trek too. You've got the ship, but the ship has an admiral, and that they report to, and the admiral reports to the United Federation of Planets, which reports to this council. Like there's always going to be some kind of bureaucracy. Sure. So whether it's a corporation or a government entity, there's always going to be something there.
Right. But at the same time, it's also because the organism of the corporation has its own motive. Right. And so how, I know this is like a big question, but I'm just asking it towards the air. How do we change the momentum of the corporation's goal of maximize profits at all costs?
Well, we've seen it. We've seen it throughout history, is that we regulate them. I mean, Teddy Roosevelt is a great president, maybe not such a great guy, depending on Teddy Roosevelt's one of those people that I hate the term problematic because he gets overused. But to me, Teddy Roosevelt is the perfect definition of problematic, where he did a lot of wonderful things, but at the same time, you're like, I think you were also kind of a white supremacist. So I don't know if I could really he's one of those people. The reason why I mentioned him is that for good, better or worse, he was a trust buster. So he came in and said, Standard Oil, fuck you, you're out of here. Yeah. Because I think people forget that we're not historically far removed from these ridiculous monopolies. Like this is just a repeat of what we saw in the 1890s and the 1900s and 1910s with the Gilded Age. And how we stopped it was we stepped in and said, we don't mind you making money. We mind that you regulate how the food is made. We don't want you putting cocaine in Coca-Cola. That's not okay. That's not a thing. A lot of people don't realize this because Procter & Gamble has gone out of their way to shelve this history, but they accidentally invented heroin. And because they,
it wasn't supposed to be against like headaches.
Yeah, it was supposed to be to treat headaches and pain.
Mm.
So I'm not saying like they set out to do something evil, but what happened was this thing was flying off the shelves. And they were like, okay, well, people are buying it. We're going to keep making it. It took the government stepping in and being like, yo, you can't sell
You
people
can't just
heroin.
sell heroin.
Like, this is not an okay thing. But that's how we stopped them. Is that we stepped in. We said, we don't mind you making profits as long as the social safety net is in place, because the capitalist system creates winners and losers. I don't like the term loser, but it creates people who don't benefit from the system, and so we need to protect and help those people. We don't mind that you do this as long as you don't do something that's greedy and stupid, like the violating net neutrality. We just saw this. Like, we just saw out in California.
That.
Verizon was throttling their unlimited data. Which is the height of stupidity on their part, because now you're definitely getting regulated.
Yeah.
But that's how we've stopped it. It's always been this. It's not that history repeats. Mark Twain said that history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And so we've sort of seen this thing throughout history where people get greedy and then people get mad and step in and regulate them, and everything's fine for a while. And then those people get greedy, and then it happens all over again. So that's sort of the answer is, you sort of see it with Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez and other social Democrats or liberal Democrats, where their entire platform is, we need to regulate Wall Street.
Right.
Like their whole thing is, we can have universal health care as long as they pay their taxes. Like Apple is the most profitable company in the world. They have billions in unpaid taxes that they refuse to pay. GE pays no taxes. If you just had those companies pay their taxes, you could fund universal health care.
Yeah.
So that's the fix. Like, that's my whole thing is, my whole fix is, if you guys want to be greedy, fine. I'm not going to stop you. What I am going to say is, just pay your taxes. Because if you pay your taxes, I can pay for universal basic income.
Right.
And then the artists can create art. And then, people who need to have these expensive cancer treatments can have them paid for, and then it's fine. Like, I'm not asking you to stop doing what you're doing. I'm just asking you to just, fair is fair. Pay your taxes. We pay our taxes. You pay your taxes.
Yeah. Even though this would sort of ended up as me sort of asking you questions anyways, I have two more questions for you.
Sure.
One, what are your goals?
My goals are actually really simple. It's to date this girl that I really like. Because I'm one of those people who, look, I could always make more money, right? Like, all of us, we could always wish we made more money.
Sure.
Because any creator will tell you, I remember sitting with this guy. I'm not gonna name drop him, but New York Times bestselling author. He's an editor at a really popular magazine. I love his writing. He's critically adored. And then every time I meet and we get coffee together, we talk about money. Because, like, if you're a creator, no matter what level you're on, you are always struggling.
Yeah.
Because even if your book did really well, like Social Media's Bullshit did really well, but that was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, that was a long time ago. So you're constantly like, oh shit, I got to put out another book. Oh shit, I got to put out a comic. I got to get on the road. So, look, I would love to be a little more comfortable. I think we all would. So that's certainly a goal. And how I get there is easy. How I get there is just through the speaking engagements. If I could just book like 10 of those a year or 12 of those a year, then I'm fine. And that's not a lot of money. Like, I would make $80,000 or so a year. Which is just enough for me to pay all my bills and to make comics. And that's fine. That's all I want. I don't want stuff. After I had the heart attack, I realized I could go through life very happy not owning things. And so I've been able to par down my life to the bare essentials almost. So I want that. But honestly, it's just to date this girl. And to go out and date pretty people, girls and guys. It's just that. Like, it's very simple. I know that sounds very, very basic, but what you find is,
no, that's great.
Once you create stuff, there's nothing more to do but create more stuff.
Yeah.
Like, my goal was to write a book, and so I did it. My goal was to be a public speaker, so I am. So my goal was to be a comic book writer, so I am. So, I sometimes joke with people about maybe I'll run for office, but I'm kind of like, all right, well, I'm an atheist. I suffer from OCD. Like I'm bi. Like I've got all these things. Right? I've got all these knocks. So it's just like I'm Jewish. We haven't elected a Jewish president yet. So I don't know. Like it's so I joke about that stuff, but to me, it's just I want to keep doing things I enjoy, and going out and dating people is something I enjoy. Like that's rewarding and fun because I like playing with people. I like interacting with people. So if I can keep doing more of that, I've reached my goal.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. And then my last question: do you have a question for me?
I do. What is your goal?
The sort of like, I guess, bigger goal is to make things that have an impact on people, I guess, emotionally, but hopefully also mentally, philosophically, whatever. But I guess the short-term goal is have enough stuff coming my way that I can make enough money off of music and not have to worry about where my next paycheck is coming from.
Yeah, that's the creator's goal. Like that is honestly every creator's got that goal, and I think the good news is you can get there. The bad news is it doesn't happen anywhere near as fast as we like it to.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, I acknowledge that there's a possibility of, like, I think you said it in your book, but like, if your goal is money, you will get money, and that's just not my goal. Like, if it would be nice,
right? Yeah.
But I don't care. I don't need a lot of things. So I really just, to put it in the worst way possible, I don't want your money. I want your soul. Like, I want to.
What's your attention?
Yeah, I want to make music to make you cry, because I've listened to music that makes me cry, and I really cherish that experience, and I hope that I would be able to do that for someone at some point.
Yeah, what's great is it's an attainable goal, because that's the kind of goal where if you just show up every day and put in the work, then you can definitely get there.
Yeah. BJ, thank you for doing this with me. This has been a great, well-rounded, future-looking conversation. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate you hitting me up on Twitter, and I know that it's strange to communicate over the internet and make friends over long distances, but it's really cool and really interesting, and I'm glad to have talked to you.
Yeah, likewise. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I hope that someone listens and they get something out of it, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, that is really my hopes out of the podcast. I'm throwing it out into the ether. I don't know who listens to it, but people do apparently sometimes, and they tell me about it.
Well, there you go. That's what matters.
So where can we find you and your things?
Everything's at bjmendelson.com. Like, nice and organized.
All right, yeah. And you can find all the fun things and involved in all of the stuff that we talked about just now right there on that website.
Cool.
And so, yeah, I need to find a better transition into my outro.
That's okay. I don't know, if you listen to an episode of the wrestling podcast I do, it just ends. It just ends, and then there's a little voiceover that comes on and says, "Thank you for listening. Tune into blah blah blah.com." Yeah, like there's never a good way to end anything.
Right? Yeah. Well, in the way that I always try to do it, I'm Santiago Ramones, and then I gesture at you.
I'm BJ Mendelson.
You can find everything that I do on my website, santiagoramones.com. I make music, which you can download or buy, pay however much money you want, or no money at all. And I make this podcast, which you can listen to on most of the platforms that are very easy to listen on. I think it's easiest to listen through whatever podcast app, but you can also leave reviews and let me know what you think. I always end my podcast with my 3 things. They shape my life philosophy. Those 3 things are: love never fails, it's going to be okay, I might be wrong.
Love it.